Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Data Dispatch. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. We sure had an eventful day in the market today with the CPI data report that came in that initially caused the markets to dip about 1% after the core CPI data number was released. And then we saw a strong reversal that I think was saved by NVIDIA and some other big tech stocks, closing the market in the green. We're going to be talking about how was Palantir affected in all this, what we're specifically seeing in recent changes in price targets, and what we could be seeing for the long term, specifically talking about Palantir and how this S&P 500 inclusion effect is really affecting its price action. So if you are a new or returning viewer, thank you guys so much for watching, supporting a smaller content creator. Hit that like button, subscribe for daily videos, and of course, I'm not a financial advisor. I'm collecting the data, and you know, dispatching the data to you. Now, 34.85. That's where Palantir closes, consolidates on the day. This is still a win in my book for Palantir, and the reason being is because holding above the 33 resistance that we saw and sitting at these multi-year all-time highs, and especially the 52-week highs, sitting at these levels for now about 3 days is important to build consolidation, build some foundation at these high price levels. Now, specifically, not getting too technical, we got trading volume sitting at about 68 million, getting more to Palantir's kind of average trading volume between that 40 to 50 million. However, still holding price here. One thing about Palantir, a big leap that we saw with joining the ranks of the S&P 500, that rebalance is actually going to happen before the market opened on September 23rd. We have the Bank of America's Mariana Perez right here, who is a 5-star analyst ranked in the top 2% of Wall Street stock picks. The moment marks a strong vindication here as she increased her price target for Palantir Technologies from $30 to $50. Now, we talked about this in yesterday's video, but we really didn't highlight the reason why. And she goes back here to AT&T, that the year AT&T commissioned a consulting firm to predict the size of the cell phone market by 2000. AT&T came out with a prediction of 20 years. The firm estimated just only 900,000 users would be utilizing cell phones here, and with the market, you see, vastly was underestimated. The actual number by 2000 was over 100 million mobile subscriptions by then. She relates this to Palantir's capabilities and basically saying that a lot of the market and people across the board have a similar fundamental misunderstanding. And I kind of see where she's getting at, because right now, a lot of people have no clue. They never never heard of Palantir. Number two, have no clue what they do. And some people don't even know what they're all about. So the fact that you have this general misunderstanding shows you the potential that Palantir has in terms of growth. And going into the S&P 500 increases volatility and reduces the stock's volatility. I agree with that. So talking about this does not agree with a lot of the investors right now. The 12-month forecast for Palantir is at 27.08, signaling about a 22.3% downside. So will she be right, or will these analysts right here coming together with the average price target, are they going to be right? One of the main criticisms that we've seen is the valuation, and the S&P 500 inclusion effect didn't make that any better. Talking about here, the hype train speeds ahead of Palantir, but some people are not hopping on. And realizing that this is a polarizing stock, investors are deeming it overpriced. We've seen this all the time. However, Palantir is still holding at these high levels. And the recent gains in the S&P 500 show you the trendiness that is behind Palantir Technologies and the amount of people that are keeping it on their watch lists, on their books, and trying to get into Palantir regardless of the price. Now, talking about quantification, this analyst here did a big algorithm, mathematical equations, talking about where they think the real valuation is. We could sit here all day and try to guess where the real valuation is. However, with AI stocks and the boom that we're in, a lot of that, I think, is being disregarded. And the customer acquisition here, talking about this, the strategy, even talking about the high valuation here from the author that is criticizing the valuation, is still acknowledging that Palantir is doing very well business-wise, regardless of the price. Growth is still strong. We're seeing that in the earnings report. We're seeing that in the commercial customer count. We're seeing that in the governmental contracts, that things are still doing well. So people can bicker on back and forth, argue on both perspectives. But the takeaway here is that Palantir does have a good product. We've seen that. And the customer acquisition strategy and the customer retention strategy is proving to be successful. So the services that Palantir has to offer, comparing that to the cell phone use in 1980, do you think there is some legitimacy behind that hypothesis? And talking about here longer term prospects, how well Palantir's stock performs over the next few years is less likely going to depend on its inclusion in the S&P 500. This is just a small glimpse in history. And I like the way that this is written, because over the next few years, we're always going to know as Palantir, hopefully staying included in the S&P 500, but there's going to be a lot more additional variables, factors that will be relied upon to determine what its valuation is and how long-term growth prospects will play out in the future. So continuing to accelerate its growth, I think the S&P 500 is only a beneficial thing. Talking about what happened in the market today, S&P 500 rises, saved by NVIDIA in the tech stocks. Why did the markets slump initially? Now, the S&P, we saw the Dow Jones and the NASDAQ that they quickly had fell. Now, they got core reading on the consumer price index that came out here that rose. Basically, the CPI data came in. Inflation was showing signs of cooling at 2.5%. But what we did see was the core reading, and that is what spooked everybody and basically washed away the greediness that more investors were hoping for a 50 basis point cut. And we saw with that core reading that stayed steady. Hey, we're probably not going to see that 50 basis point cut. We're probably going to see a 0.25% cut regarding the first federal interest rate cut. Investors got a little too greedy above their hands in terms of expectations, and we saw some selling that was happening right after the report was released. And with that tumbling of the stocks, CPI here not stable, but market did not need a core reading that was higher than expected. So we'll see what happens, but it looks like 25 basis point. That's basically now priced in at an 85% chance. Originally, we saw about a 70% chance because the other 30% made up of that 50 basis point cut. It's just not looking like so. But anything can happen. Why did NVIDIA help save the market? And we saw that is because there was a well-received presentation at Goldman Sachs conference this morning, and there is news that the federal government could allow it to export chips to Saudi Arabia. As a result, we really did see NVIDIA explode on the day, up over 8% here. You can see this beautiful reversal right at that $100 support level. That $100 support level, ladies and gentlemen, is becoming a critical level of support that can be relied upon in the future here. NVIDIA is already back up to 116. Now we have basically not guaranteed, but fully, I'm going to say in my book, like a 99% expectation. We're going to get that 25 basis point cut, which means that market adjustments will take into place the next few days, and we'll go from there. But right now, where Palantir is sitting, I think is at a decent price zone. Could we see any pullback? Definitely. Definitely we could see any pullback in PLTR. Why? Because this S&P 500 inclusion effect, if we see any different macroeconomic variables, anything with Palantir, we could see some profit taking across the board. That wouldn't be necessarily surprising. That's because Palantir is trading at these multi-year all-time highs. People could be cashing in. But that $30 support zone, if we do see any drop, that's a good point to land on. And even, who cares about the price right now? A big major accomplishment for PLTR to be included into the S&P 500. One of the biggest goals. Alex Karp even came out and said it himself. It's not about what the price is now. It's about what the price is, what you think depending on what your position is and what your long-term basically perspective is. So what I have for you guys. Peace out. Take care. What do you guys think down in the comments? I'll catch you guys tomorrow.